it play out, when you see the principles play out, then you're able to be in an environment where I was out of class, so that's fine. I just was generally talking.
No problem.
That's good.
Thank you.
So when you be in that mood that you could actually remember how it played out, what was the challenge, and you seem to associate it and you remember it better. I have been in the industry, like I said before, 40 years, and I started my career in the first environment on the property and casualty side, and then I moved over to the life and health side. And I've worked, I started my career as a receptionist clerk, and coming June 6, 2009, because I started in 79. It's going to be 40 years in the industry. I never thought I would be in the industry, but I loved it, and I like meeting people, and I like talking about risk and the assessment of risk. Thank you. And the assessment of risk, because people believe everything can be insured, and that's not the truth. Every policy has some basic exclusions and some reason why exclusion, because the whole concept behind risk is that it should be able to be calculated. And if the frequency is so much so that it's going to always happen, or if the severity is that if it does happen, even though it may not be frequent, it'll wipe out the entire, like you couldn't take out a tsunami insurance in certain jurisdiction. And earthquake coverage is one of the regular exclusions, because the damage to the area would be so catastrophic that an insurance company would not want to pay those mass losses. But we do find that Lloyd's of London, for instance, they take risk and they charge you for it, and you pay very high premiums for it. And so in our locale, you have the environment where you could have a 4-door sedan type vehicle in the hands of a 35-year-old, and the same thing as in the hands of a 27-year-old or a 19-year-old. And so even though the car itself is the same vehicle, we have what we call physical hazards, how the vehicle is actually constructed, or moral hazards. And the insurance company assess both. So if you have a 4-door sedan vehicle as opposed to a sports vehicle, a 2-door coupe vehicle, the risk is different. And if you have a station wagon in the hand of an uninsured driver, 18-year-old, 19-year-old, it could be the same as if it was a sports car. Or you could have... Pardon?
Color too, somebody was saying something about a red.
We have found that the majority of incidents and accidents happens with vehicles that is red. But I haven't seen red, the color red. I think the sun and the glow and whatever have you. And invariably, the majority of the sports vehicles are red. Okay? And so, I don't know if it's a color per se as a sports vehicle, but what we found is there's a high incidence of those. Hi, good afternoon, great. A high incidence of vehicles actually being involved in accidents when the color was actually red. And for instance, the color gray, when the weather's bad, is a bad thing. So certain colors, yes, does affect, or we've seen a correlation between coloring and the incidence of accidents and those delights. But yes, I've heard about the color red, and I don't know if it's the red or the fact that the red is always on a sports car for the most part. But I don't know if we ever scientifically got to the place where we did a study to show that it has a connection with the blindness and coming in your blind spot and not being able to see until you're already up on you because of the coloring. I don't know. I've heard that we have a problem with red vehicles, but I don't know if any company ever took, I don't know if you want to have a look, ever took the time to actually do an in-depth study to see why that is the case. And so we asked the color, and I don't know that anyone actually wrote a policy for that, but give you an idea. A third-party policy, for instance, your average third-party policy could end up being $450. From that, they normally take off a 10%, a 15%, or 20%. What they call is a no claims discount. And from that no claims discount, so whatever that is, and it might end up being $350. As far as the consumer is concerned, that's how much I pay for my insurance. But they very rarely know what the basic rate is. Now, if for whatever reason, this is the basic rate, and I now have a young driver who's been driving for less than 2 years, they would add 50% loading at that level before they take off the no claims discount. And so that same premium, you'll end up being like $700. And I'm just generally, so as far as the consumer is concerned, once the underwriter on the other end hears the type of vehicle and the age and experience of the driver, they just quote a premium. But you don't see how it is actually calculated. But this is what they say. And so if there was an accident and they say you lose your no claims discount, because you only get the discount when you have not had any claims in the year in which the policy was actually covered. If you lose your discount, then you're back to, you still have the loading attached, or it could very well be based on the incident and how that happened. You can have 100% loading. And that is what it is. And then that ends up being $900 after a claim, as opposed to anything else. Now, that's what the third-party policy would do ordinarily. Your comprehensive policy, I'm talking about a vehicle under $10,000. The basic rate on that could be something like $1,500. When you hear people say, oh, I'm only paying $500, I'm only paying $600, it's because on the comprehensive side, companies, and this is generic because it depends on which companies were, they start off with 30% and they go to 40%. And there's some people who put a 45 in there, but some jump right to 50 and go to a maximum of 60%, between 60 to 65. But it's off the basic rate that you're getting these discounts, no claims discount, NCD, and then it bands out to about $500 at that end. If you lose a whole 30%, and if you're at 60%, some companies say if that was your first accident after being involved with us for a long while, we don't take it back. Other companies say we step back 2 years. So the next year, you would only get 45% discount off of what the basic rate is. And how they arrive at that basic rate is the value of the vehicle, engine size. So a car, and the engine size is usually in cc's, cubic inches, or the cubic cylinders, and or, so when you hear them say 2,000 cc's, that's the engine size. It could be in cubic inches, CIs, or trucks usually say horsepower. And so they start off by a rate being, I go across, that's the value, and at this point, I come up with a basic rate. And that's where they start. And from that basic rate, depending on the assessment of that individual, we then move to how we add or take off or reduce any of the premiums. So if you're good, if you're getting a $500 to $600 premium on a comprehensive vehicle, but that's a vehicle about $8,000 or $9,000. So these Mercedes and European cars that goes up a little higher, they could quite easily be paying $2,000 with a premium, quite easily, except that they're getting the maximum discount. And when it gets to that point, for the comprehensive 60 to 65, for the third party, maximum be 20%, between 10 and 20%. That's your maximum discount. So you won't be getting, the only way you'll see that the rate is being dropping is because the value of the vehicle keep dropping. Because the engine size isn't moving, it's just the value of the vehicle. And that's what we call, that's the underwriter's job function, to assess the risk involved. And it might be that sometimes too, they might decline outright. Because you might be here, and then suddenly you want to add your 17-year-old to the vehicle. That makes, put a loading on the basic rate, and then your premium jumps up again. So my recommendation for persons older, probably considering whether or not they should put their children on the policy, is I would say to provide them with a smaller vehicle. They're going to get a third-party policy in their own name, and they in turn would build up their own no claims discount. Because as long as the vehicle is insured in your name, they are not entitled to any no claims discount. So they could be driving for 3 years, from 18 straight on to, and then suddenly they now on their own at 25, 30 and want to purchase a vehicle. They're paying the basic rates. Because the no claims discount is attached to the owner of the vehicle, and not the person who's driving regularly. And I've also seen recommended that husband and wife should separate the policies for that purposes. But some companies are also good about it, where they say, well, we put it in both names, and if it's 2 cars, then you're both earning the no claims discount. A few years back, what used to happen also too, if you only ever had one vehicle, and then suddenly you purchase a second vehicle, that second vehicle starts its own no claims discount. Whereas it was difficult for the consumer to understand, because I'm the person who's driving, and so why does this vehicle have to start all over again from scratch? But the concept from an insurance perspective is, yes, you the individual who has been driving and gained the no claims discount, but you're not going to be driving a second vehicle. It's rare for someone to have 2 cars and they're just switching in between the 2 cars. They're most likely purchasing a second vehicle for somebody else to drive. And that somebody else would not have earned the maximum no claims discount. So that's...
Do they also implement multi-vehicles loyalty?
Yeah, I've seen that, and I've seen where they say, well, okay, we'll give you 10% of both vehicles because you have more than one vehicle involved. And I've also seen they say, well, okay, on the second vehicle, we would give the starter, which is the 30% or 10%. So they don't make you start from scratch, especially if you've been a very good customer of theirs. But you're not entitled to get the maximum discount on both vehicles just because you've earned the right and you haven't had any claims. And that's assuming that you haven't had any claims. Because once you start claiming, the discounts start being stepped back. Any questions, concern? That's basically the private motor policy, and they all operate basically in terms of calculating the premiums in that particular way. So everyone is signed in? Okay. So we could jump right into our session, and then we have some time to look at the homeowner's policy is very interesting.
I have a question before you
Sure.
start. I was just wondering whether you had recorded last week's session,
Yes.
because I didn't get it.
You didn't get it?
No.
Yes, we did.
How do I get it?
The young man who was just here just now, asking him when we pull out to actually email it to you. Yeah, we did.
What's his name?
Junior, I don't know his last name. Yeah, but he's a junior. Sorry?
There's no coffee or that?
No, just water. If you want to institute something, we can talk about it. Because you're coming in after a hard day of work, right? Right. Yeah, not at the moment. Any other questions before we jump right into where we left off? Thank you very much. Any concerns with what we covered last week, some of the issues that we covered last week? And everyone now is aware that your presentation should be next week. And be prepared to turn next week, the 27th. And be prepared to turn in a piece of paper. Hi.
I seen him here.
No.
There.
Excuse me one sec. You didn't take an exam. I'm sure we'll have to take it now again. You know I used to live by myself, right? I hooking up under the door, right? You even gotta do what you even gotta do. Okay. Yes, ma'am. Okay. Now, let's jump right in then. I think we stopped on page... No, we didn't finish chapter 2. The only thing we did in chapter 2, actually the only thing we actually did, we talked about the salesperson's card, the registration and market conduct. We actually did the agent and the broker and the policy owner and the sub-agent. We talked about those things that we'd expect to be on the license of the salesperson, and then the powers of the ICB as it relates to suspension of registration and or cancellation of registration, because the ICB has the power in order to do that. And we were to begin on page 17 today about market conduct. So everyone is there with me? Great stuff, great stuff. The thing about market conduct is, and I think I mentioned this last week, if you are being sponsored by one company and they terminate your contract, the terminating company must fill out a form and send that into the insurance commission, and the company that is receiving you has to fill out a form and turn it into the insurance commission. And on that form is information relative to the reason for you leaving that organization, and is there any indebtedness to that organization that you're leaving. Because otherwise you would have persons who would leave from company to company to company doing the same thing all over again, where in some cases they collect premiums and not turn it into the insurance companies, or they make poor representation. They actually say to the consumer, this is how the policy works, and it's really not how the policy works. They are more driven by their commissions than what is in the best interest of the customer. And the insurance commission does not take those kinds of allegations lightly. They want to make sure that the persons are always fit and proper persons to do business. They have the proper training, and they also have the interest of the consumer at heart as opposed to anything else. So and of course the insurance company has to give the ICB a copy of their normal agency agreements. So they actually vet them before that company is in operation and able to hire persons in that regard, because they want to know that the company is being fair to the consumer, to the agent, and the agent in turn is being fair to the consumer, and they want to police that whole relationship. And so they can ask at any time to inspect not only the contract itself, how that individual has been doing and performing in that environment, so that they are always in a position to say, well, yes, that person is a fit and proper person. And in addition to, and they have the specific forms for it, and all the forms and applications for the ICB, they have a form section on their website. And so you can't say, well, oh, we didn't have any form. You can just go and pull them down. It's all PDF forms there, and you fill out what needs to be filled out. And it's forms where it can be filled out online and you just print it off. If you save it and go back to it, it ends up being blank. So you have to actually print it off as you finish completing it. Okay, so under market conduct, any change in information must be notified, any agreements, letter of sponsorship, any terminations. They must know who are your responsible officers, who are your technical representatives or salespeople. If it's anything to do with persons who would be in charge of the organization and reaching out to the customer, they want to know. And for different levels of responsibilities, they want to make sure you have the proper certification in order to be managing at that particular level. And so they have Forms 12A and Forms 12B and Forms 13, all related to the salesperson. And Failure to notify the commission of a hiring or the termination of a sponsorship agreement is an offense and is punishable under the act. So they could actually bring charges. They can actually set fines to the company and or the officer involved. And so in the industry, we don't take it lightly when these agents move from place to place. I have known managers who would say, let me check your last place of employment, and they actually pick up the phone and make that phone call because they could be held liable for not doing their due diligence to make sure that this hasn't happened in the past. Any offenses, penalties, and sanctions? Anyone who breaches any provision of the Act, any provision of any statutory instrument, or any directives or requirements given or made by the Commission, or an inspector appointed by the Commission, will be considered guilty of an offense. One of the inspectors we have in the industry is on an annual basis, some accountant, auditing company or firm or person has to check our books for AML requirements. And that even though it is a person recommended by the ICB, their fees are actually paid for by the insurance companies themselves. Okay, and that's independent of any other auditing information that needs to happen at that level. And when an offense is proven to have been committed, either with the consent or involvement of any director, principal officer, actuary, or auditor of the company, the guilt is considered to lie with the person proven to have committed the offense or who allowed the offense to occur. So the person could be fined and the company could be fined. Any person who willfully orders, makes, or allows any entry or removal in or omits an entry from the collection book or premium receipt book, with the intent to falsify the book is also guilty of an offense and subject to the penalties as specified in the law. So the penalties: a fine for a company, a fine of not exceeding $10,000, and if the offense continues, a further fine of $1,000 per day, as long as the offense continues. Per day, that's the key. For an individual, is half that, a fine not exceeding $5,000, and if the offense continues, a further fine of $500 per day, as long as the offense continues. Per day. And the commission could actually also to impose any of the following penalties: public reprimand, a ban on carrying out certain operations, temporary suspension of a manager, removal of a director, responsible officer, or other senior manager, imposing conditions on a registration, revocation of approval of a principal representative, auditor, or actuary. In some cases where you have an insurance company might be registered in the Bahamas, but not have a physical presence in the Bahamas. In other words, you don't see an office space. You can't actually go there. They must, however, though, have a principal representative, because the ICB needs to know who is representing this company in the Bahamas. And that principal representative could be an accountant, it could be a lawyer, it could be, so it has to be somebody who has the presence of mind of running the business and understanding how insurance works. And you have to make an application on behalf of that individual before you say, okay, I'm just going to appoint anybody as my physical representative. No. And anytime that you have to get approval from the ICB. When you get an approval, if there's any questions, even if you say, and there's been cases where the person says, I'm an accountant, I don't really understand insurance, that's not good enough. Whoever you have to go to get information you need, that's your problem. You get it and you have to sign off on it. So by signing off, you're saying that this information is true to my best belief and knowledge and nothing is being withheld that would be material to the ICB. So the burden is on you once you accept that appointment as a personal representative, that all information is filtered through you. Because if there's anybody or any police action being taken place, they're coming to your office and they're asking you questions about the company. And so as a personal representative of that company, you should be able to trust the information that you're getting and be able to at least speak intelligently about that information that you're getting. And not take it lightly, because some people just say, oh, I want to get paid as a personal representative. And they think it's only a mailbox scenario where you're just collecting information and mailing on the head office. But no, they will ask you questions as it relates to the company that they expect that you would know. And also too, they understand that in some cases you might have to go back to head office to get certain things, but they expect that you're able to interpret that information and have an intelligent conversation with them about the organization of the company. So the commission could actually mandate that the registered insurer, or so they keep saying association of underwriters, because Lloyd's is an association of underwriters. It's not an individual insurer. It is several persons with an underwriting pen actually being formed together in groups of association, or what we call syndicates, and they will share risk between the underwriters. So that's what they mean when they talk. It is a company, and it could be a individual syndicates in that company. I could have 5 people that work along with me, but we only represent as one syndicate. And so that's the difference between an insurer and an association of underwriters, where we still doing insurance business, but we're not set up to actually carry the risk, as it were, on the total package. We actually are sharing in that risk. And the idea behind Lloyd's is that individuals who are underwriters there could be attached in their personal capacity, whereas in the insurance company, you're limited by the assets of that particular company. So you can't go to that man's house or whatever else if you have to sue them for whatever reason. So once the fine is paid, the insurer or the intermediary will no longer be considered liable to any further prosecution for the offense. And I think someone asked this question before. A company's failure in complying with the provision of the Act does not invalidate an insurance policy that is issued by that company. I think I remember someone asking that question. If the agent or company did something, but you already have a contract in your hand and you bought the policy itself, does that invalidate the policy itself? And the answer is no. Once you, the consumer, bought it in good faith, then the policy is issued by that particular company. When you have a situation where a company is, their license is being revoked, the liabilities of the contracts that exist at that point, someone still has to manage that, because so they'll have to hire some receiving company or some other entity to actually manage that, because you'll have to run it off. You cannot sell new business, but someone has to stand in the position to manage the liabilities. So if death ends up occurring, you still got a claim. Someone still has to pay for the policy itself. And in issues where we had insurance companies in the past, particularly life insurance, we have where they say, once you continue paying the premiums, and you have to set up an entity to receive the monies on behalf of the people who want to pay. Should death occur, the claim should be handled by that entity. And now they make sure have assets in the jurisdiction in which they can jump at and make sure that the claims are actually paid. With annuities, because it's a savings product and an investment product, is slightly different, because the whole concept behind investments is that you could sometimes stand to lose the entire investment even if everything was working well. Because when we had that 2008 bottled up with the financial services industry and all the banks and everything was having a major issue, that's the normal course of doing business that we never anticipated. We didn't expect a depression in that environment. And real estate was supposed to be the safest kind of investment. But the real estate market went belly up, and all of your things which are assets end up turning into being liability, and you're not being able to get rid of it. So when it comes to annuities and investment, sometimes when you lose, you actually can lose very big, and there's no protection, or there used not to be any protection on the actual policy itself, because that's the nature of investing. You could win, you could lose. But as far as life insurance policies are concerned, particularly because it's expected to be a long-term benefit, that will have to be run off, and somebody has to be managing it. We had, back in the day, for those of you a little older, a company used to be Travelers and MetLife. They were here. they decided that they want to pull out of the Bahamas, someone had to manage their portfolio and do the runoff of that portfolio. And all the contractual obligation that the customer has in their hand still exists. And so someone is managing that portfolio in that regard. Those are the two that come. We used to have Dominion and Manulife as well. If you bought those contracts, the company would manage and merge and acquire that portfolio. They probably just sent out something saying the name has been changed, but everything else is the same. So it was an endorsement to the policy itself. But once you hold on to your contract, all the obligations, and even if the company no longer sell that particular kind of policy, your policy in your hand is as good as gold. The ICB actually protects it.
So would CLICO help fit into that scenario as well? Because some people were claiming they weren't able to get their life insurance benefits. Once persons would have passed, they weren't able to get the beneficiaries weren't able to get their.
CLICO should have been in that position. They should, and I think at one point government was actually recommending that you continue paying the premiums.
Right.
Okay? And with a good lawyer, they don't have a leg to stand on because you have your contract in your hand. And there is a company who is responsible for collecting the premiums on their behalf. I think the biggest hullabaloo for CLICO was the annuities. Okay? And I heard that, you might have had a $10,000 policy or $15,000 policy, and they say we're only giving you X, Y, Z. You don't have to accept that. I would take it to my lawyers and actually make representation, because the life insurance policy should have been protected. The life insurance policies. But that's my position.
So persons could have actually started a class action lawsuit.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely.
Is it too late to do that now?
They recording me, you know.
That's why I didn't want you to answer.
The one thing I say, and I say this genuinely, is not want to jump on CLICO or anybody else, is there is never too late to find out what your rights are and your obligation, especially if you have a written document in your hand. From a life perspective, it is expected to be a long-term business, and it's expected to be protected by any agency who is overseeing the insurance industry at this particular point, because the assets and the liabilities were supposed to be in this jurisdiction. So, anyone spoke to me, I would say you need to get a very good lawyer and pursue it. Unfortunately, in our jurisdiction, our mindset, when we think about, well, by the time I add this and do this and whatever have you, it might not be worth it. But in some cases, it's the principle of the matter.
Mm-hmm.
It's the principle of the matter. And what makes it difficult sometimes is the person who took out the policy, who would have possibly been in possession of the contract itself, is gone and dead, and the person who's probably claiming don't have that to hold on to. And so sometimes it's good and bad when you don't let the beneficiaries know where you can go and get all this information, or where in some safety deposit box or some place there's all your stuff in place. And so I recommend right now that, because we don't know where it is, you should have organized your scenario where all of the documentation that someone would need to execute, whoever it is, know where it is, or know who they could go to find out where it is.
So do you have to present your policy? So in the event someone passes away, you have to present that original policy?
That's part of the claims adjudication process.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And so I would say make sure that it's kept in a very safe place. If there's a mortgage involved, usually that policy is lodged with the mortgage company. So that's an easy fix. And so I could run to RBC, or I could run to CIBC. And they're going to be executing as well, because they want the balance of their outstanding loan.
Mm-hmm.
And you can leave it there. We, our company particularly asked the original contract as a part of the process. But say for instance, Mom bought this policy when I was only 15 years old, and now she's dead, and I'm going to come and claim and get my money. I have no idea where it is, I can take a legal action and say X, Y, Z. But I have to prove that I'm the person who is on it as beneficiary. Because without us knowing that you are the beneficiary, we will not give any information out. Being in the insurance industry, one of the things that I always have had a difficulty with is, we know who the beneficiaries are because we have a policy in front of us. Why wait for the beneficiary to contact us when we could contact them?
Yeah.
You see? But it's not common practice we look in the papers, we see the person's died, and we just wait.
They want an interest in it.
Wait for the person who
And
think they
put
might
it
be
Yeah.
interested to contact us. And that's not good customer service.
That's it, don't.
Your average insurance company don't call the beneficiaries. We don't even have a number for beneficiaries. If you look at your application and you see a beneficiary, see if there's a place for a telephone contact. Usually it isn't. You have a contact application right there in front of you.
Right.
It doesn't have it. But I have a difficulty with that in all the years I've been in the insurance industry. Because we run behind the customer to take their business and to say, I'm going to be there should your family need me. And then we sit back and wait for the family to call us. And if they don't, we don't do anything.
So what
Just
you're
take
the
saying is
money,
that
just
the insurance
stay in the
company could be holding funds for persons who are not aware of it. That's what you're
Yes.
saying.
What happens?
Did I say that?
For persons
But that's
Is that
Yeah,
around to
that's
sue
nice.
you all for holding up on people's money for all these years?
So what happened with that? What happened?
The money is kept and gains interest on that money.
So no one
That's
comes
neither
to
here
money
nor there,
that
'cause no one
means-
knows.
So that's
the
why
insurance company
government
get the
could claim with all these persons
Lord,
who
listen.
pass away and they
Don't
don't have any.
Listen, man, y'all want me to go on national TV and whatever this box is and whatever. Yes, that's the scenario. But I would like to think that they're doing a better job today than they did in the past. But from all that I've heard, they don't contact the beneficiaries because they don't even have the numbers to contact the beneficiaries. They have the telephone contact, the email address, and where the applicant lives and all of that stuff. But they just say name a beneficiary.
So if in the case that the beneficiaries are not contacted, right? But the person that died has a loan still pending,
Well,
how does that work?
two things. And that's why the financial institutions are very good at saying, go bring me a life insurance policy to cover this loan. Because we don't want to be dealing with your husband, cousin, auntie, uncle,
Right.
brother
Yeah.
to pay this
Right.
loan.
So we hold on to.
We hold on to this. Anything happen, we the ones executing with the insurance company. We get the money
Yeah, we look at
and
the
we give you.
newspaper and we see.
Yeah.
Would you have to
If
present
anyone
a
dies.
certificate of death in order?
Oh yeah.
Right, so I'll have to come and bring the certificate of death.
No,
I don't have it.
no.
How does that work?
Watch this. A certificate of birth or death is public knowledge. All I have to prove down at the registrar's office is when you die and give them your name. They will give me a copy of the certificate. I could get a copy of the certificate. Because that's public. Anything that's public records, I can pay the $10 and get a copy of it. So the bank could just say, I know Sherry Brown died X. I'm going to send my messenger down at the registrar of company on Shirley Street and Shirley Street and Charlotte and get a death certificate.
But shouldn't they themselves say, well, okay, if you're saying why is it that you need a copy of the death certificate? Why isn't that the family not bring
Why
it
the
to you?
insurance company?
Right. Why isn't that the family member didn't bring it to the insurance company? Why would the insurance
Well, I know.
company
Let me put it
go
this way. Anyone I related to die, I get a lawyer, and I can let the lawyer send a letter to all insurance companies
Right.
registered to say this person has died. You tell me if you have a policy, and it's well in their right to do so. Because you don't know.
Is that what you call a probate?
That's the part of the not only the probate. Sometimes we could just name the estate because even before you go through the probate exercise, a lawyer's letter could request information relative to any policies that might be in place.
Finances too, including banks.
And then if the insurance company must respond.
Right.
So they will respond by saying, yes, John Brown is insured with us for up to $500,000, and they have to confirm who the beneficiary is. They have to give the information to the lawyers. Now, the lawyers might, if the beneficiary is named and it's a named person, that's the end of the story. They don't have to go to probate. They now call Sherry Brown and have Sherry Brown bring in all of her documentation to prove that she's Sherry Brown. And we must cut a check for Sherry
Who
Brown.
would call it? The insurance company?
No, the lawyers, because
the
the
lawyers
lawyers
call.
acting on behalf of Sherry Brown.
Right.
See, if Sherry Brown just called them and said, I want to know if John Brown have a policy, we don't even take a call.
Yeah.
We don't have that conversation. We would recommend that they go and get a lawyer to send a legal, because legally, institution to institution has to respond.
What if the beneficiary is different from the person who requested the probate? The lawyer still calls whomever it is?
What I found is usually the beneficiary is somebody who has some vested interest in you living, not a problem. Okay. And so they themselves usually the ones who check. You can have 5 people getting 5 different lawyers and going to do the check. If I'm representing Sherry, who is not a beneficiary, the only thing I can confirm to Sherry is you're not a beneficiary and the case is closed.
Right. So the information still stays where it is?
The information will stay where it is, because I only represent Sherry.
Right, that doesn't make sense.
Because Sherry wouldn't even know if she is a beneficiary.
Yeah, but that's where I say the insurance companies should reach out to the beneficiaries.
Yes, correct.
Because when I sit down in front of the person, I'm actually saying, I'm going to be here for you.
You're my
Good
agent.
faith.
You're my agent. I as your agent, I'm supposed to be representing you.
That's not part of their fiduciary responsibility?
The companies don't do it.
Hmm?
The
No,
companies
but
don't
the
do it.
agent.
But who can sue who?
My estate could sue.
So even your agent wouldn't be able to call your,
Any of them can do so. But what I found is that's not the usual practice. It's not the usual practice. But if now that I know as much as I do, if I'm the one taking it out, I'm the one actually sitting with somebody, I'm getting all of that information at the time of, that's on my application. Not only who, what, where, I'm actually looking at if it's a child, who's a trustee for this child. Because the child cannot sign a release for the documentation or the monies. So I'm getting that information and I'm going to be calling. The minute I see one of my clients, I'm making contact with them, and as a matter of fact, because they're my client, and I hear that, I'm visiting them. And of course, when people are saying, have my deepest sympathies, I'm like, we need to talk. So we
Right.
could,
Right.
yeah. So I'm pulling on the side to say, okay, here's the scenario, and here's what I need for you to send in. And I'm giving her the forms that she needs to complete in order to execute that. But I can tell you, as sure as I stand here, not every agent does that. Not every agent does it. And if you know anyone who's been in a position, ask them how they were approached, how they were contacted. But once it start the process, and sometimes depending on when death occurs and what they say is the cause of death, they can ask for an attending physician statement. Because they want to know, they want to make sure that this situation didn't start prior to the application and there was fraud committed on the application itself. So they ask for all this information at the time of the claims to be adjudicated. She giving me this eye like, boy, you are something else.
That is just awful.
I think so. I think so
That's
too.
unprofessional.
I think so too.
It's just about the money coming in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then, like I said, there are persons in the industry who do the next thing.
Right.
They actually go and visit the family and they actually have this conversation and they go with a packet of information that I need you to give back to me so I can process it on behalf of the company. Or behalf of, because I'm representing you at that point. I came to you, I took your information, I actually say to you, should anything happen, X, Y, Z, do not have to worry, John in good hands or Sue in good hands. Then you die, and there's no connection between me and whomever else.
And I think with insurance agents of that nature is they don't realize the bigger picture of it, because if you're that type of agent that will go ahead and say, look, yeah, this is what occurred, so you and I have to talk on the side, that person who is probably the beneficiary will say, look here, I knew that when my husband passed away, his agent came to me and we spoke, so I'm able to go ahead and recommend you to other individuals.
But even
And that's
before,
something you
even
can do
before that, even before that, if I'm bringing you a check for $100,000, I'm saying to you, what are you gonna do with this? And we never recommend you put in your bank account and start spending. So what?
Especially if you have kids.
Thank you. Not a problem. We say, well, let me see if I could assist you in making an annuity or what, so you could get additional sales right there and then, or some companies allow you to say, okay, and what the annuity does is say, you will get a certain amount of payment on a monthly basis or an annual basis over the next XYZ. So the remainder portion is still invested in the company and gaining interest whilst you're getting it. So it's not we replacing the person, we're replacing their income.
Right.
And they would need someone to help them to make those kind of decisions. And so you get additional sale just by delivering a check. So yeah, I would want to make it, if it's my will, to make it a standard practice across the board that agent actually contacts that beneficiary.
Yeah.
And it should be a norm across the board. And some companies do, some companies don't. And some agents do and some agents don't. But I'm not only looking on every Thursday both papers, I'm going online. Because the names kind of stick out with me. I know my customers. And then too, you have to tell us within X and Y, Z. So if a person's been normally paying, and then you see that some payments have been missed, even if you didn't know they died, then you make contact. Because you have all the numbers, you have all the files in your office. So you make contact and make sure everything is okay. Outside of that, all companies have that they should do an annual review. Because people's circumstances change. And what you bought last year might mean you need to do something different. So you, just by a show of how many of you have been contacted on an annual basis by your agents?
Oh, I have a good agent, I must say.
That's 1 in
That
7.
must be your friend.
Huh?
That must be your friend.
But, no, but when you and that's wonderful. That's really wonderful. But what I'm saying is, we sell in trust. So once I done sell that trust, I need to be in contact with you. You know?
Well, I know that my agent died
Yeah, every
some
year my
years
agent
ago.
bring me a little trinket here.
But the plan should have been passed on to someone else. Someone else has it
We-
in their portfolio. I know
We
that.
have
But I
what
don't
we
know
call
who
an
it is.
orphan portfolio.
Yeah.
And what some companies do is to say, because some people say, well, if I'm gonna work on this without the commission already been paid to the other agent.
Right, so they don't
Yeah.
Don't let's say they don't care, man. Let's say they do. But
Majority do.
but humans being what humans are, if the hour I take with this person gives me $60 and hour I take with that person gives me $0, then I'm gonna spend more
But you still get a
time.
little something from that because it's on your portfolio.
Companies start saying they will give a servicing fee,
Yeah.
which is like 3% on the portfolio. So they get something. And not only that, every time you are in front of somebody, you get an opportunity to sell something else. And sell their cousin, auntie, uncle, child, and whatever have you. And so that's just the nature of the business. Unfortunately, we have a few people in the industry who make it bad for everybody else. I would like to believe that your average agent is in contact at least once a year. But from the show of hands, for those of you who do have, I don't wait for my agent to get in contact with me. I call them all the time. They get tired of hearing from me. I say, what else y'all can do over there? But on a serious note, we as an industry have to do two things better. Educate, inform and educate better, and actually do better customer service. Sometimes we get so big that we figure once we flash it on the TV, we flash it on the radio, and the bills continue to come in and be paid for, we lose that common touch with that individual and fund there. 10 years ago, I knew of an agent who used to have an annual function for all of her clients. And so in that environment, she is actually, again, working and talking and being with them and so on and so forth. So you have from one extreme to the next, but that at least what we call an annual review should happen because circumstances change and people want to do something differently. But they normally would send out a birthday card, they normally would send out an anniversary something. So there's no excuse not to do it at least once a year. At least once a year. Okay, getting back to on page 19, responsibilities, and that's the big word that I just heard again, the fiduciary responsibility. Okay? And they're looking at the responsibility of the salesperson to the client. They should always explain the key features of the product being sold to the client, ensure that the client fully understands that policy being purchased. How many of you could say, I know I bought her, whatever it is?
I don't remember. Yeah.
Okay. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
What the policy does as well as what it does not do. Most of the time they tell you what it does. They don't tell you what it does not do. And they should disclose this to the client. They're never fully covered and they're never covered for everything. There's always, always, always exceptions to every contract, every insurance policy there is. They also have responsibility to the company. They should always act within the terms of his or her employment contract or agreement and fully disclose all facts that he or she may have regarding the risk the company is being asked to underwrite. Sometimes you have the salesperson actually saying, you ever had any of these things? No. What I always instruct the salesperson to do is ask specifically every question on that application. Because when you read the list of stuff, you say, oh, I did have asthma when I was, or whatever have you. And when you call the names, that's specific and very deliberate, as opposed to say, well, I knew you long time, I remember you being sick. And they just stick, no. Because they get so friendly in that environment. Why you laugh? It happens. It actually does happen. So they have a responsibility and they should always seek to fairly represent the company to the public. And like I said before, they should not only say what is covered, but what is not covered. They have a responsibility to the commission. A responsibility to comply with the Bahamian insurance legislation as well as any policy guidelines or directives issued by the commission. The commission actually asks salespeople who work outside of an organization to have what they call professional indemnity policy, because you should be able to sue someone if they gave you false information and cause you to behave in a certain way that is to your detriment. And so the insurance people should have a minimum of $500,000 professional indemnity policy.
How much does that cost?
And
How much does something like that cost?
only for $2,000. But you're in business. That's small things to pay to protect consumers. Small. But
What percentage would you say actually have taken that out?
they must.
Oh, they have to do it now because of the new act.
They have to do it, yeah.
Okay.
They have to do it. If you, and also too, the company, because if I'm an agent working with a principal, I could buy my principal by my action. So the company will have to say, okay, I will pay just to save face. But they have the right to go after that agent as well. So, and some companies just say, just keep it hush and me, I want to go on. Because once you get to the place where the confidence that you have in that organization is eroded, then you know how we go. We can tell plenty people. And they can tell plenty people. And no insurance company really wants the bad name associated with we've been doing certain things over the past years and whatever have you. But I sit at my desk and wonder, after all this time, we still are seen as thieves and rogues. All the years we've been working. And it's because we haven't done a very good job of educating, informing, and servicing our clients as a general scenario. And so I whenever I meet them, they say, oh yeah, we know what you can do. No, you have to really see what you do as a professional and treat that person the way you would want to be treated. I would want them to let me know whenever the company is making any changes that could negatively affect me. And why even look up there?
I was thinking about Clico. Some persons did get their heads up that something was going on.
And they pull their monies out.
But is that the same as insider trading?
Well, insider trading and active stock exchange and all the things that are now coming out that we have come out with is a result of, yes, it's insider trading, but who's watching it, who's managing it, and I don't know how much of what is being mandated by these external agencies now is a result of, well, you all have the laws on the books, but you all have not been executing and putting in the disciplinary teeth to show the penalties and the punishment of persons who do it. So we might be suffering from the fact that we have in the past turned a blind eye on a lot of stuff that we probably should have dealt with, and in a public way so they could see that we're serious about what we have on our books. Because the acts are there. The information is there. And easily verifiable facts are there. But you only hear about it, it's swept under the rug, and it's moved on. But Clico ain't the only one to close down. Yeah, so don't just keep
But that was the bigger. But the thing with Clico, right? My thing is they should sue the government because the government's still encouraging people to pay premiums.
But let me put it this way. If you don't pay the premiums, your policy lapses.
Yes, so then they
Money
still
go
should
down the
sue
rates
the
of change.
government.
The
Because
only
you're just paying your money and you're not getting anything.
remember that conversation when I said you should get a lawyer first and foremost? You still back there. Whenever you have when you feel you have a legal right, you sue everybody and let the court figure out who's paying. Because it could be class action straight across the board, and let the courts figure out who pay me. I just want to get paid. I just want my claims get paid. And I could tell you, the majority of companies that I know who don't want to have a bad thing going on would pay that claim quicker than you can shake a stick out. Because if they lose, they not only have to pay the claim, they have to pay all the legal costs associated with bringing that claim. So they weigh, if you're talking $20,000, we might as well just pay the $20,000. But they'll only pay that one. They don't go and call everybody else. And unfortunately, we kind of think in silos when it comes to things like that. You know, United States, some of the other Caribbean countries, they probably would not have been able to get away with it. But yes, you can sue. When they talk about responsibilities and they talk about the client, to the company, to the commission, what do you think of that one that says to themselves? If you hold yourself out to be a professional, you would want to operate in such an environment where you uphold the dignity of the business that you're in. It's unfortunate that a lot of persons come into this industry not thinking about wanting to come into the industry or wanting to make themselves professional and learning and making sure they understand everything about the business. They come in this, people tell them you can make plenty of money in this business. But you're making that money for a reason. You're making that money so that you are able to manage those persons' affairs because they're not going to be there. The time a claim is paid is when that person who you talk to has died. There are some living benefits, but we can talk about that later. Salespersons are prohibited from engaging in the following. Twisting. On page 20. Twisting is tricking the holder of a long-term insurance policy into letting it lapse and taking out another policy that is substantially the same kind by using misrepresentation in complete comparison of the advantage and disadvantage of the two policies. So, like we said before, if you start this policy at this time, you let it run for 3 years, and somebody comes and say, cancel that, and now 2013, you're starting again. This gap is uncovered. All the equity built up in this first one, if any, is lost. It's to the detriment of that person that take out another policy, canceling the old one. And invariably, the benefits are not that much different. So you're doing that customer a disservice because they've lost all of the monies they've invested in the original plan. Okay, and that is specifically mentioned in our act. You're prohibited from doing something like that. But I know persons who say, I'm with this company, A, B, C. I left them and I'm now with D, E, and F. So bring your business from here over here. They start that again. And then they later go to another company, J, K, L, and they tell you to cancel that and bring it here. All you're doing is financing their pockets by way of commissions. Because you've lost all the monies you've invested in those environments. And you're starting all over again. And not only that, all the terms and conditions that you would have been protected by underneath the original contract is now starting all over again. And so you could have bought this at age 35 and you're now at 45 starting from scratch. That's a disservice to that person.
Have you ever seen that happen where a person may have canceled the policy and because they're no longer insurable, they can't get a new
Yes.
policy?
I've
So
seen that.
that's grounds to sue it.
Well, what was the reason why you canceled your policy?
Because the agent told me to come with them.
That's what you go to court to say.
Yeah.
And they advised you that they were leaving here.
Poor advice. They didn't tell me I would have had to prove insurability or there was a risk that I would not.
But there's always a proof of
No longer.
insurability.
Hmm?
You always, even if you let that same policy
But
at the
the
same.
agent, as opposed to.
Well, you plan on
inform
suing
me
the
of that.
agent?
Yes,
Okay. Good luck with that.
yes.
Good
Do you
luck
think
with
that's
that.
grounds?
It's grounds. It's grounds. But this agent's defense could be, I told you I was leaving this company. I was counseling to move over. And if you go to the ICB, the only thing they have is to say, I've revoked that agent license. But will you get whatever you think you're entitled to? Yes, it's grounds. Yes, you can try it. The probability of success is kind of low. But yes, some people. If I was retired, I would just spend all my time doing them little things and running around to the courts and whatever, so forth. Because I have nothing else to do. But if you trying to get on with life and then you have to be faced with all the legal ramifications and you can't really represent yourself, and then if it's more than 5,000 or so, you got to go to the Supreme Court and everything else in the Supreme Court. Then you, excuse me please. You turn this off. I thought I turned this off. What can I say? So yes, you have grounds because you've been ill-advised and it was to your detriment. And that is one of those things that's prohibited. And somebody getting a fine, is that sufficient grounds for you at that particular point? It depends on your temperament and your legal advice. And sometimes you pay the lawyers more than you get. Sometimes, true, we've had situations where you are advised of making a switch. But watch this, on last paragraph under twisting. A registered salesperson who influences the policy owner to discontinue an insurance policy without being satisfied that this discontinuance is to their benefit is considered guilty of twisting and can be fined for his offense. Okay? Advertising. The legal prohibition, the legislation prohibits salesperson from making or allowing to be made any statement, advertising, circular booklet, or any type of document that misleads or intends to mislead the public. Furthermore, salespersons are not allowed by any medium to broadcast any statement that mislead or intends to mislead the public. Now, going back to that kind of thing. If I advertise that you have major medical insurance, what does that mean to you?
Provide health coverage.
You got full health coverage, because they say major. And all those things that we are concerned with, hospitalization, dental, vision, physician services, should be covered, right? Okay, go right there you go, all them things. What if under closer, and this was advertised, so come take out some insurance from us, and it only costs $50 a month. And you have major medical. And then, first of all, the minute they tell you it's $50 a month, you know something wrong. Yeah?
Yep.
And then you find out what they have instead is a network of providers who give you discount on their services. So that could be a physician, CIEN, a hospital, a lab, or who else is involved? The physician, hospital, the diagnostic group, and those any ancillary services. Ancillary services. And what they're saying to you as a consumer in here, I ordinarily charge $500, but because you are part of this network, I'm going to charge you $400. That's not major medical. That's not major medical. And we've had issues like that in the past. They sound like, come get your medical insurance. This actually is worth $50 because you're still having to pay these physicians every time you access the care. And you're going to get a discount from them. But you can't go lay up in the hospital and expect that all the bills will be paid and all you got to do is turn in your claim form. Because this is what we call a PPO, a preferred provider organization. And so they give you a list of preferred providers. Not major medical at all. So be careful. The price is being cost, that is for you. And ask them for what are the benefits. And ask them to create, well, what if this happens? Where do I go? What do I do? How much am I paying? Am I paying 10, 20, 30, 40? Am I paying 80, 20? Am I having to come up with X? Am I having to buy? Those are the kind of questions that the consumer needs to ask that person in front of them. And let me see that in writing. And when you deliver the contract to me, what the insurance company have is a 10-day look. In that, if in delivering the contract, you have 10 days to say, yes, this is what I want and this is what I bought. If you decide that, you know what, from what you said to me and what I understood and what is in writing here does not gel, I could turn that contract back in and I can get my money refunded to me. So it's called a 10-day look. So you could go and, at that point, they have to return all of your funds. So use the 10-day look in your benefit. To your benefit. Advertising is crucial. Now, rebating is when a portion of the premium of an agent's broker or license commission on the premium or any other. What that is saying is, in order for me to get you to do business with me, I'm going to give you some of my commissions. We are not allowed to do that. You are purchasing this contract based on what the company is offering, and the price is the price. That doesn't have anything to do with if I decide to give gifts at the end of the year, like a pen or whatever have you. But I should not be able to rebate any of the premiums or the commissions back to you by way of inducing you to do business with me. And that's what rebating is all about. You get a portion of the premium or the agent's commission or any inducement to place the business with a specific insurer is returned or offered to the policy owner directly. This is illegal, they say in many jurisdictions. It's illegal in our jurisdiction, for sure. With our superintendent being a part of the International Organization of Regulators, they might have other, I can't think of anyone off the top of my head where that's not a requirement. And I don't know why that may want to be a requirement. I mean, why that wouldn't be covered under their act itself. But it says in the book, in many jurisdictions, definitely in ours it is, you cannot rebate. And they actually speaks to rebates are strictly prohibited, a rebate or whole or part of premium or anything else of value to a prospective policy owner. Any person who knowingly contravenes the act of section 137 of the act will be considered guilty of an offense. In the examination process that we will do, I will not necessarily need you to understand or to say, quote, subsection 137 of subsection ABC, but just to say that that is in the act itself, something like that. So you have the spirit of the principle as opposed to being very definitive about or to that level of detail of answering a question for the exam purposes where you have to quote the part 5 of subsection 3 as if so. No, it's just to know that these things are prohibited under the act. Twisting advertising, false advertising we call it, and rebating.
Well, we won't have too much to worry about rebating because you know they ain't gonna pay for their money.
Don't say that. Don't say that.
You can get a little gift at the end of it, but no.
A salesperson could be a salesperson who is not selling only one policy one-on-one. If I suddenly have a group like Alabama's Police Force, and I'm providing them medical coverage, the premium on that is really hefty. I might say if I could speak to somebody who in charge at that level and they secure and make sure keep me having the business, that's at least a $5,000 gift I could give from the premium. So don't say they wouldn't, because if I'm getting a couple $100,000 or whatever, it's worth it. If the cost, if the premiums are big enough, people could be induced to think about it. On a one-on-one basis, maybe not, but in group coverage, depending on the numbers of the persons, and anything over 50 to 100, it could be worth it. Because the agent would be able to get anywhere from, on the medical side, 7 to 10, anything on the life side, 10 to 20%. And you have some companies who pay premiums of about $300,000 for the year, easy. So it's be a lot of lobbying for them big contracts and government contracts and all the rest of it. In 2008, this is unaudited information, but in 2018, on the life and health side alone, we would have paid, the premiums paid would be in the vicinity of $400+ million, right in New Providence. That's only on the life side. That's not on the general insurance side. And on $443 million, premium tax is 3%. So that's $13 million before you even blink an eye gone to government. And that's only on the life and health side. So I'm not familiar. Even if that's 13 on the life side, the general side could probably add another 9 to 10 million onto that. And that's just for being in operation. Because you have to pay your license and everything. But premium tax is 3% of gross premium. Okay? So it could work out. It could work out. Premiums, payments, premiums and policies. The Act requires that unless otherwise agreed upon by the registered insurer, the policy owner, all proceeds payable in relation to a policy will be payable at the principal office. The industrial life insurance companies, like your Family Guardian and the British American, who have the smaller debit policies, they are set up differently and they'll be outside the scope of that because the agents actually go in and they work the debit. So they have to collect the premiums, mark your book, and enter it into the insurance companies. Outside of that, on the ordinary, in life we have your industrial life insurance policies and your ordinary life insurance policies. Under the industrial life, that premium collection book is a part and parcel of the process of what they do. So they don't fall in here. But the insurance companies are supposed to have a mechanism in place where the premiums are collected at their offices or automatically by salary deduction or credit card or debit card. So the agents themselves supposed to, not expected to be collecting premiums, coming on and collecting premiums. They're supposed to collect that first premium with the application and put you on automatic premium mode so that they're not handling the actual cash. But I've seen any and all things in the industry where agents actually go on a monthly basis and try to collect this money and bring it in. And sometimes they get it and sometimes they don't get it. But I prefer that automatic mode. And if even if you want me to collect it on a regular basis, I'm talking semi or annual premiums. Because monthly, I don't want to be known as carrying around a lot of cash in this environment. Especially when all of the financial institutions are telling me that every customer has a debit or credit card. So that should be a automatic situation. Where the registered insurer receives sufficient evidence from a claimant, proceeds of a policy will be paid within 30 days of receiving such evidence. Sufficient evidence, yes. Why I say sufficient evidence? Because sometimes they might ask you for 5 things, and you get the first 4 in the first 2 or 3 weeks. But like an APS from one of the government institutions could take itself 30 to 40 days, depending on who the doctor is involved and whether or not you actually submitted. So we would not consider as having received or the 30 days doesn't start until we've gotten everything. Okay, and I've seen claims take as long as 3 months. First of all, you got to figure out who to pay. Now, sometimes the policy might not be very clear, or sometimes the person don't have evidence to bring. I personally have a mindset of the people that I want to do business with, the people that I can easily identify. I know where they are, I know where they work. But not everybody could pass our AML requirements. And they're here in the Bahamas working. But they don't have a passport, they don't drive, they don't have a driver's license. So sometimes I have to figure out that I really don't want a client like that, because when it comes time to deliver the promise that I said, I have trouble finding them. I know where they work here because we was recommended, but they may not be working there by the time that claim is needed to be paid. Or whoever the beneficiary is. If you have difficulty finding the life insured, the beneficiary is even that much more difficult. So, but if I'm eager just to get that policy, I just write in, and in some cases I have to do a saliva test. I got the test right with me. I send that in, you give me your first premium and let's roll. You know, because what some insurance companies do is this. Say the commission is actually 30%. The person pays $100 first month. What that agent gets paid is 30% of $1,200. Even though the customer only paid the first month. That policy is issued January, in February, another one might be due, if it's not, but because the commission runs is usually on a monthly basis. By the February commission date, they're getting 30% of when the person only paid at maximum maybe $200. So they have to keep that business on the books at least 12 months for the insurance company to earn what they paid, because they've already multiplied by 12. And if 6 months down the road that policy lapses, the insurance company loses, because that money's the commission on that is already paid times 12, which is that's all we receive, but we're paying you on $1,200. So that's where the money could be made. And if you don't pay attention, you just keep going, selling, because by the time this drop off, you get the next one. I mean, that one drop off, you get the next one. And you're creating, I call, the snowball effect to the company losing business. And a good manager is watching that this thing doesn't actually happen in that environment. Or they might say, if any of these policies drop off, we charge back whatever we've advanced you already. But that's only good if they continue to sell. They could have gotten that money and leave the industry, or gone on to the next company in that environment. So you have to be very careful. The policyholder on page 21, payment without probate. Where money is payable to the personal representative of a deceased person or company may, without requiring probate or letters of administration, withdraw or deduct from the money any amount, including bonuses added to the policy. Such deductions, however, may not exceed $10,000 and can be made to any person that satisfies the company that he or she is entitled to receive the property of the deceased person, obtain probate of the will of the deceased person, or take out a letter of administration of the estate of the deceased person. And the taking out a letter of the administration is when you go to the lawyer and say, execute. But our law, even without a will, says how the assets will be disposed of intestate. So if I just prove that I'm the only child and there's no husband involved and I have to bury my mom, the insurance company can decide, well, yes, you do have a policy, yes, you're the beneficiary, and we will pay to have the thing buried. But keeping in mind, the maximum is up to $10,000. So if you suddenly got a funeral for $20,000, you got to find another 10. Okay? And the biggest problem that I've seen in the past is when there is multiple beneficiaries and they may not all be on the same accord. For instance, if a person dies and they have where there's no husband, there's no children, the parents are dead, and they have 6 brothers and sisters. They are the legal estate. But John, who might be one individual, if he don't sign, then nothing can be done until and the person needs to be buried. You're going to have some challenges there. And that's the kind of conversation an agent is supposed to make sure not to have. And in setting up a beneficiary, you could decide to say, I want $25,000 to be paid to Jane, and the balance to be paid to whomever. Or when you actually putting and organizing your beneficiary, you could say anything you want, really. There's no one to prevent you from doing that.
Quick question to you. When you're jumping from beneficiary to beneficiary, there's some people who do that. Like my mother, every year her beneficiary changes.
That's your best of making a mind, that's what I'm saying.
Every year her beneficiary changes, right?
Yeah.
So, like, how does it work in terms of I know, okay, like.
Just ask your question.
She yesterday, she changed the beneficiary to me.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this is the first time I've ever even made it on the list.
She done eliminated all the rest, right?
She eliminated her for different reasons. I don't know if I get a mod tomorrow, she might change it tomorrow. But everybody think there's a beneficiary. You know what I mean? Because I always told her not to put me for the fighting. Probably I think it'll go on. But she's finally put me. But my sister thinks she's a beneficiary, and I don't know if I think she's saying she have documentation. My brother thinks he's the beneficiary and he have documentation. So how does it work now that
the insurance company takes the last one that was signed.
Mm-hmm.
And all of those documentation have to be witnessed. And anyone who has access to an insurance policy have the full right to change it as many times as they want. There's nothing to prevent them from changing it. There's nothing at all. And they can change it every week, every day, if they want to. Because there's nothing to prevent them from doing it.
I know at one time you actually had to, like, when I first took out insurance, and I had my brother as beneficiary, I actually had to have him sign
right,
off.
I remember that, yeah.
Nope.
Change it
Nope.
now? No?
We had what we call the Mad Woman's Property Act, where the only protection under that Mad Woman's Property Act that applied to life insurance policies was if at the start of the application stage, you name a spouse or children. Brothers don't fit in there. That's the only time you could not change without them being involved. Brothers, sisters, auntie, uncles don't fit in there at all. It's only supposed to be spouse and children.
Because I know I well, my sister, she had me on as a beneficiary and she wanted to do something to the bank. So I had to sign I had to sign off releasing the funds he had to me.
She
To
could
the
have
bank.
changed you. You don't have to sign up a thing.
So all you had to do was change her.
Yeah.
All she had to do was change me.
Because you're not protected under the act. You're not one of those protected categories of persons.
But then my spouse is the first one on my mother's insurance. So,
Um,
but my sister didn't have to sign.
I don't know if it was at the start of an application because
Oh, okay.
yeah,
I think
because
she was at the start of the application. So is that even, that's what, I think that's my question
and this
now.
would have been before 2010.
My sister was the first person, or I was her favorite child, she was the first one on.
And it was prior to 2010.
I think so.
Yeah, well then
She would have
children
signed.
fall into that category.
Right.
Yeah.
But then I've seen the contract now, the new contract provided by the insurance company.
New contract or a new
New
beneficiary.
beneficiary, and my
Yeah.
brother was the beneficiary.
Spouses and children were protected under the Married Women's Property Act. Only spouses and children. And back then you had to be very careful because if you said, I only had one child, and because the companies ask you what percentage is for that child. And if you put 100%, and then you have another child, you can't say now I want them to share 50-50 because you already created a trust for this child for 100%. That's the way it's supposed to work. That's the way it's supposed to work. But only spouses and children, and if they were at the application stage. Some people start with a policy with saying the estate,
Right.
and then later on down they add a child. They're not protected because it was not at the start of the application when you first took out the policy. So you got some homework to do.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Cause I think she'll come out the light.
And so you had husband and wives who were getting divorced, and the only way that policy could lapse, or as a matter of fact, if the husband had his wife named as the beneficiary prior to 2010, and he now has divorced her and wants to remarry, and she wants to pay the premium, he could do so and keep the policy.
Yes.
There's nothing he can do.
Because he can't.
You can't cancel the policy that's
It's already
paid.
in effect, right.
You cannot cancel the policy that's paid. So she could continue paying the policy.
So how would that work if something was to happen to him? Because he took on another insurance with his new wife.
That on them.
I
This,
think-
this contract in my hand
Yeah,
tells me I'm
that's
entitled to
right.
$100,000. And especially if he's the older man with a younger wife, a younger than me wife, then it's even better because chances are, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but you
The
get
probability is, and every women in here, but let's be real. The chances are, something
Yeah,
happen,
yeah,
something out of
yeah.
job, something there.
Yeah.
So you pay your premiums. Continue paying the premiums.
Yeah.
So that means that they have both premiums at one insurance company.
I don't care how many companies.
That means the insurance company pay two.
Yeah, yeah. If he took out another policy with the newer wife,
Right.
that's just another set of $100,000 going to her. And he could do that. He could take out $100,000 here for this wife, $100,000 for this wife, another $200,000 for the children. Make no difference. The insurance company paid the whole $400,000. But since 2010, you have to say whether you're naming this person irrevocable or revocable. And most people don't name people irrevocable.
No.
They just say no, leave it, and then it can change at any time. So only when you name an irrevocable beneficiary, you need their signature in order to execute. Yeah. Now, a bank can have a policy that says, I'm lending both of you money, and I don't want any changes to be made without the both of you signing. That's not the insurance company making a mandate. That's the bank making that mandate on you. Yeah. But it's before 2010.
So what happened since then?
Since then now, anybody you name, you have to say whether you want irrevocable or not revocable. Irrevocable or revocable. So I can name my husband at the application stage, but I could say he is revocable. Yeah.
So, for clarity, you're saying that prior to 2010, if you named your spouse to be a beneficiary,
He was
that was
automatically,
irrevocable at that time?
automatically irrevocable.
And if you were to get a divorce,
Mm-hmm.
Still,
You still.
That got nothing to do with the policy.
Yeah, I know.
He's
But they're
still on
no
the
longer
policy.
your spouse.
No, but he
But I
was the
pay
spouse at the
the
start of the policy.
Yeah, but they're no longer your spouse.
I pay the premium.
The only way you could get out of
That's
that,
for, that's
Stop
for the
paying
benefit you
premium.
give to
Yeah.
your, that's for the
Yeah.
benefit you give to your spouse. You no longer have a spouse.
no, but we don't say spouse, we say John
John
Brown,
Brown,
XYZ,
right.
husband. Now, all John Brown got to prove at the time of a claim is he's John Brown.
Exactly.
What you have to do is get rid
Mm.
of mine, get rid of John.
So how do you change that?
Let me turn this on.
How do you change that?
What, no.
But you may not be able to get insured again.
You may not make sure. What some persons have done, because when you get a divorce, they talk about divisible assets. They make the insurance policy a part and parcel of the divisible assets. And let the judge decide, and then they can make the change. Yeah.
Make him sign.
But then it becomes by order of the court.
John Brown.
And the Mad Women's Property Act, it was an act on our books. So only the court can make a change over XYZ, but you had to make it as a part of the divisible assets at the time when you're dealing with all the other assets. But I've known of women who continue paying the premium.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's an asset.
Definitely.
The divisible
That's an
assets,
investment.
that's
Yeah.
where John Brown can continue life. That's good.
Paying that, that ain't
You know what I
So
mean?
that last
One short of the wrong thing and he's out of there.
Great.
Anyhow, so if you could prove that you paying for the disposition of the body, some companies would actually say we'll pay some of the portion. And how they get around it also too, they might say we'll pay Lakeview. So we're not paying you.
Direct.
Yeah, they
Yeah, they pay the funeral home or the funeral company or some limousine service or whatever. So, and that'd be a part and parcel of the settlement. Now, when that settlement does come, they deduct whatever was paid from the settlement itself. And once they've made that payment, say you only was insured for 10,000, they've discharged any obligation that they had under that contract with whomever. So, some companies do that to give you dignity. You know, at the end of the day, you don't want to squabbling and so forth. And let me tell you, she ain't buried yet.
Yeah.
You know, it's 3 weeks now. You know, because no one wants to take up and give on and put monies up front to make sure it dispose of the body. So when the company makes a payment as described above, the company is considered to have discharged its obligation and holds no further liability in respect of the money it paid out. And all persons whom the policy is paid as described above must use this money for the administration of the estate. The company, however, if it sees fit, may require the representative to pay a bond which should be held as sufficient security to ensure that all money so paid will be so applied. We also have situations where we say whatever you pay, just make sure hold on to your receipts, and then you come in and when it's time to be settled and so on and so forth. But like marriage, death always has another spin on a lot of things. Okay, and when someone gives somebody the impression that they were the beneficiary, and then that comes down to they were not the beneficiary, and some persons actually gone to the extent that because I thought I was the beneficiary, I advanced the money to get the thing paid. And now come time, I got my money and I said, well, tough, that's your ma too, you know. Because we have these conversations, they could sue for the money that they expended on, because they could prove X, Y, Z. And some cases they've won, I've seen where they actually won. And that's the best you could hope for at that particular point. Because the insurance company takes a position, you were the one who were insured and paying the premiums the whole time. There should not be a squabbling at the point when you have to, your body has to be disposed of. Let's get into, I'm not going to go into turning over premiums to be expected, they turn over the premium. The death cost or mortality factor. How we arrive at the premiums for life insurance policies. This is how we arrived at it. The premium is always equal to what we call mortality cost, which is the probability of you dying, plus the expenses of that organization or the administration of that policy, minus any interest that the company could get. So when you talk to insurance people, it's P equals MC plus E minus I. That's how we would get. The premium is always equal to the mortality cost plus the expenses of the administration of the policy. So if you see one company have 9 locations in one 7x21, the expenses are very high. And another company have probably an office space for the 8 individual, the expenses are really low. In an interest environment, it usually pans it out to the same. But the mortality cost is what we find on a mortality tables. And on that table, what is actually shown is the probability of somebody dying at every given age per 1,000. So if they quote you a rate of 0.67, that's per 1,000. And so if you want to have a face amount of 50,000, you're actually multiplying by 50, because whatever is shown here is per 1,000. It is always per 1,000. So that's how we calculate the premiums. It makes sense? Did we suddenly get hot?
Yeah.
Okay, then you only need it. I was wondering. Yeah. Don't do it. Don't do it. Okay. Now I want to clarify something that's here on the premiums and rate. A premium is the price you pay for insurance protection against a specified risk for a specified period of time. The premium rate is the price per unit of insurance, and it says there are 2 factors built into the basic. The key is that word basic, because they talk about the death cost, which is also known as the mortality cost, company expenses, so they make you sound like it's only 2. But then the next paragraph says, in addition to the mortality factor and expense cost, the interest factor may also affect the basic rate. The interest factor always affects the basic rate. Because if you can get a higher interest in that environment, that's how the actuaries calculate the costs of insurance. Because we expect you to have premiums paid on a long-term basis, which will be deposited and which will actually gain interest. So when they say may, 99% of the time it is a part of the premium calculation. So I would say, always say, it does include expenses and it does include interest. But notice that it's a negative figure. So a question could be, the rate of this policy was $20. And the company expense rate went up. What do you think should happen to the premium? Premium goes up also. But what if the interest rate goes up? Because it's a negative number, it's inverse. If you could get more interest, the premium should drop. It's inverse. With these 2, if mortality charges goes up, the premium goes up. If the expense administration go up, so anything that's a plus, if it goes up, it has the same effect on the premium. But because this is minus interest, it goes down, and that goes up. And so they would want to see that you understand the relationship between any movements over here. How would it affect the premiums there? That clear as glass or clear as mud? Any questions on this? Because it could be on the exam. The exam is intended to be true, false, fill in the blanks, and probably dealing with 1 or 2 of the principles.
Okay.
Yeah. So it ain't supposed to be rocket science. It's supposed to just to see that you have a basic understanding of how insurance works in the marketplace. And that's why I would want to have all the presentations on the principles, because they will show up on the exam. 1 or 2 or 3, if not all. Okay, so I leave that premium and rates.
Is there
The-
examples in the book of the calculation of different, we have to look on examples of the calculations?
I think we might have some in the practice sessions.
Okay.
To test your knowledge in the practice sessions. But I could always create some of that beforehand if you need to. Yeah, yeah. Oh, okay. It says, if a company uses an interest rate, on page 21, just before the end, if a company uses an interest earnings assumption of 3% in calculating its premium rates, but net earnings prove to be only 2.75, how will this affect the premium policies in force? Yeah. So we have to create some scenario. I'm not sure this book up. Yeah.
It depends on if it was guaranteed. If the 3% was guaranteed, then you gotta go with that.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And there's maybe different scenarios.
The monthly premiums, then they talk about premiums can be paid either annually, semi-quarterly, or monthly. When you pay monthly, you pay a slightly higher premium than if you paid semi or annual. Because what the insurance company does is calculate the annual rate first. And if you want to pay it semi-annual, it's times 0.51. If you want to pay it quarterly, it could be 262. If you want to pay it monthly, 0.08875, something like that. So you would find that it could be $1,200 annually. By the time you split it semi-annually, it'll be $650. So you got $50 onto it, right? And then if you're paying monthly, it ends up being something like $1,300. If you were to multiply what the monthly figure is over a 12-month period. Because the mindset is there's more administration taking place at the times that you're making your premium deposit. So it might look cheaper, but if you multiply that same rate times 6 or 12, you would find that it's more than if you had bought an annual or semi-annual premium in the first case. Any questions on any of that at this point? Okay, so let's just finish this chapter, and then we just have 3 before the midterm. The premium receipt book is, notice it says for all industrial life policies, they get a premium receipt book, and it is that folder, that's another little book. You have your little small book, and they say, I want to update your book. So they come in and they're supposed to collect monies from you, sign their register, and sign your book, and turn it in. And when they get back to the office, they're supposed to be turning all their monies. So they call it industrial life insurance. It would be we call it home service, because people are normally collecting those monies from their home, and they have to work a debit, is what they call it. So I know my debit is the Chippenham area, or I know my debit is the Fox Hill area, or I know my debit. So everybody's assigned these certain, they kind of cordon off from the Providence and wherever they operate in sections. Debit number 1614. So debit number 1614 might be between Yellow Welder and all the way to Woodford, go back to Thompson Boulevard. So every home in that particular area is your debit, and they expect you to not only collect premiums in that area, but also sell other policies in that area. So when I've already sold the mother, I'm coming back with the husband and the children and the auntie and the uncle. But you can be assured in that month, I'm back to collect monies in that particular area. So I have to just work that debit, that's my area. Outside of that is what we call an ordinary life insurance business, where it's expected to be larger policies, that they are smaller policies, probably to a maximum of $50,000. But the bigger policies are in the ordinary division, and we could sell up to $10 million worth of insurance. And it's expected to be automatic premium paid as opposed to the monthly premium. Unfortunately, we have some people over on the ordinary side who operates like they're in the debit, because they come to you and want to collect on a monthly basis. And that's not how it was set up to be intended. But still supposed to be using a certain level of professionalism, still wanted to be in an environment where I'm advising you based on what I can do. But one of the things that I've seen is, if you think about the $12, $20, $30 they pay every week, you paid more than a monthly premium in some other environment for higher volumes of premium, for higher volumes of cover. So you have to sit and examine what it is you actually have and make recommendations. And the companies who have both don't allow the debit agents to sell ordinary products, because there's a different level of skill set is needed to be at the advisor level and to handle the bigger premiums. And those people who buy the bigger premiums don't want you coming to them every month or every week to collect it. They want to just sign a check and give you it, go on, or to put it into an automatic mode. And so I kind of think sometimes it's the company's mindset to say, well, these premiums are smaller, so if something goes down, you know, you only losing them on $30, $40, as opposed to a premium of $2,000, $3,000, $4,000. We want it to be automatic, or the company's or the person is paying directly to the organization. Okay, so and the premium book receipt should have all of these things on it: the name, the date, the person, where the policy is issued in respect of life of a person other than the policy owner, including the full name of the person and date of birth. So not only the insured, because a parent could take it up for a child, and they have the birthday bonusing and all that stuff. Those kinds of things happen more on the industrial life side as opposed to the ordinary. The date and the number of the policy and proof of age may be required before payment of the sum insured. Excuse me. And the salesperson should always ensure that each payment towards a premium is appropriately recorded in the premium book receipt, and record should clearly indicate the date on which the premium is made and the policy or policies toward which it relates. And so they they sign off on your book, and then they sign their register. And if there's any dispute, you go with your book. And the insurance commission has this thing where anytime there's any dispute between the insurance company and the insured, they take the insurer's copy takes precedent over anything else. Because the agent would assign their book and signal it. If he don't turn the money in, that's on them. I have where I paid you, and this is evidence of my payment. It's the insured's evidence that's going to override anything else the insurance company comes up with. And that does make sense, yes. Now, what rights does the policy owner has? One of the primary mandates of the insurance legislation is the protection of the Bahamian policy owner, and the legislation affords Bahamians the following rights: rights of cancellation, written disclosure, proof of age, changes in health status, irrevocable beneficiary. So this is saying these are all the things that the insurance company cannot deny the insured from having a right to do. Death of a named beneficiary, declaration of a trustee, and whenever there's a trustee name, the benefit is paid to the trustee. So if you have, I want to insure my life and I want my daughter to benefit from my life insurance, but she's under 18, I name my sister as a trustee. The check isn't made payable in the daughter's name. It's actually made payable in the trustee's name. Mm-hmm. And that trust relationship is automatic. So if the trustee takes the money and use it for some other reason, not for the benefit of that child, once that child becomes 18, she could sue the trustee for her money. Yeah. Because, I might just go on a shopping spree and send everyone a car and add a piece onto my house, and the child only 5. So by the time the child gets 18 or whatever, I would have spent, I got $150,000, I would have spent maybe $10,000. The child could sue for the benefit, the difference.
And that happens a lot.
That's if she finds out it.
That happens a lot.
Mm-hmm.
That's if she finds out.
Yeah,
Because she would know, eh?
but you
The
listen.
child is very young. How do you?
Yeah,
I
sometimes
never
you know,
thought
but
it.
now this
Sometimes you don't know,
generation
but this crew,
stays very
They know.
savvy.
there's no.
They know. My daughter knows.
Well, my daughter knows. She know everything that mommy house is hers. So she just tell him, oh, this is my house, this is mine. She knows.
My daughter knows.
Yeah,
Because my
yeah.
sister, she likes to shop. Oh, Lord.
So you told your daughter.
Yeah, she knows.
Okay. Oh, that's where they're getting it from there. The life insurance been telling them these things. Okay, yeah. Well, my daughter's younger than my son, and they just assume I do 50-50. And I had to pull him aside and say, no, Daddy, didn't have it go. No, you know. He's older, but she's more responsible. Okay? And we women have this thing where, you know, I know my girl Charlie can do some crazy things. But some other woman and some other women might end up, you know. So you talk to your sister if anything.
Because my father has this in his will also. He has, whereas we have property, each one of the kids have their property. But once the daughters get married, they're only allowed to live on the property like for about a year to 2 years.
Oh, really? He really gone deep.
Yeah, afterwards, your husband should have already provided a place for you off that property.
Oh, okay.
Home.
Okay.
So you're not gonna be sitting down there as a husband and just living freely. No, you have to go there and provide for your wife.
Yeah.
But the property will remain inside the daughter's name, but you just can't live on the property.
Oh, that's weird.
Because he said he works hard for it, so he don't want no man to be sitting there on the property and think, oh, it's okay. No, you have to go there and provide for your wife.
So after the 2 years time limit, even though she owns it,
Right.
she can't live on it.
Not with the husband being there.
Who's going to enforce that though?
That's a good thing. That's I know someone who take a different turn in that they have daughters, and the scenario is I want my daughters to always have something to come back to. Should the man play crazy? So if she wants to live there, she could stay there. But then he knows that's her house. As anybody to be put out, it's him. But I would hate to know she can't live there and he don't provide for her. Then what happens?
That's when you get rid of your husband, because if he ain't providing, what you have him there for? What you have him there for?
Anyhow, getting back to life insurance.
You have a life insurance.
Okay, yeah. Oh, yeah. I didn't even think about that one. I didn't even think, I believe in marriage be forever. I didn't even think we'd get rid of the husband. That wasn't the option in my head, but if it works, it works. And I've seen people write very specific beneficiaries on their policies. So, who knows? Terms of the policy. The insurer, the insurance company usually have generic terms, but the only thing that the insured could make a decision on is the face amount and agree any premiums based on those face amount and any beneficiary names under the policy. All the other contractual obligations are already in the particular policy. And so the agent or salesperson needs to make very certain that people know what is in the contract, how they can even access some of the stuff in the contract. Because dividends and cash values and all the good things inside the contract, they need to know how they can access those things and when to access those things so it's not in their detriment. So they should make sure. I remember this thing I talked about, the 10-day look. A policy owner must serve notice of cancellation to an insured anytime within 10 days of receiving a notice of cancellation from the insured or being made aware of the policy coming into effect. So they had 10 days at that particular point. Where no notice of cancellation is delivered to the insured within the 10-day period, the insurer may retain or claim a portion of the premium on a prorated basis for the period of time during which the policy was enforced. So if the agent delivered it and then the person came back and said, let me think about it. They had it in their possession. And then 2 weeks goes by. And then they say, after thinking about it, because they've paid the first premium already. After thinking about it, no, I don't want this anymore. The insurance company could say, well, that's one we take. Thank you very much. Or they could say, well, we'll give you a prorated information, X, Y, Z. Especially if they paid an annual premium. They could say, well, okay, we'll give you back X, Y, Z. But, and that's only from the policy being delivered. The 10 days start from there. You don't say, well, the agent kept it for 10 days. And then they brought it to you. The 10 days start from when they brought it to you. So you could end up having 30 days from the time when the policy was made effective. But your 10 days start only from when you got the information. So that's what that, that's what it is.
Do you sign?
There's a
the
pol,
contract?
there's a policy delivery receipt
Okay.
that you sign saying I received this on this policy date. Yeah. And if it's within the 10 days, the insurance company has to give you all of your monies back. If it's outside the 10 days, then we say thank you very much. And you can cancel it. This normally happens under a life insurance policy. But a policy owner may cancel a non-life or general policy at any time by surrendering the policy to the insurer. And the insurer is then required by law to refund either the short rate premium for the unused portion of the policy to the policy owner. But I've seen, when they say short rate, what ends up happening is the difference between short rate and prorate. Give an example. This is an example to help you understand it. If the policy was taken effect month 1, and they kept it for 3 months, prorated means 3 months divided by 12 times whatever they paid. That's what you get back. Well, that's what the difference
The insurance company keep.
with the insurance company keep. If you just prorate, short rate could be 3 months plus 2 months divided by 12 months, which ends up being 5 months they take, and you get the difference.
How you have it in 2 months?
Because they say, well, this is not guaranteed, but they say this is administrative services.
Okay, that's a charge.
Yeah.
Take that away, yeah.
So when they say short rate, you actually, for your purposes, you actually know you get actually paid less. Yeah, you get returned less than what the prorated would be. Or some people say pro rata, depending on if you're British or American. So that's just giving an idea. They actually, on a short rate mode, it works out to about an extra 2 months being calculated as a part of what they hold back. And a lot of general, and this happened only on the general insurance side. You want to cancel your homeowner's insurance, you want to cancel your car insurance. If you were involved in an accident, your insurance premium was paid for the year, and your car was totaled 3 months into the year, you should get some premiums back. If you've been insured with us for some long period of time, the company would say, I would always give you a prorated because you're a very good customer. Because it's on the discretion of the insurer how much you get back. But if this is your first year with me, and in 3 months' time you cancel, the policies have to be canceled, I would do a short rate. Yeah. So that's the difference for you hear those two words. One, you get less coming back to you, and more on the other end. And that paragraph before the end says, an insurer may cancel a non-life or general policy by giving the insured at least 30 days notice of cancellation and refunding the prorated premium for the unused portion of the policy, period. Marine and aviation policies are exempt from these requirements, because why the marine and aviation policies are different is because even if the policy is cancelled, you could have liabilities that extend long after the cancellation, because those kinds of things are not settled very quickly. When planes go down, I could take 3 years before the claims associated with that incident to come to the table. So that's why they're exempt from this kind of cancellation and all the rest of it, because the liabilities can hold on long after the actual cancellation itself. Same thing with the marine. They don't think about small boats when they're talking about marine. They're talking about cruise ships and those kinds of things. And so they want to make sure that you can't say, oh, I can't claim against this life insurance, this marine or aviation policy because the policy is no longer in force. Even if it's cancelled or whatever have you, when the incident occurred, it was covered. So that'll make no never mind. Yeah, yeah. So I could tell you, and I only got 2 minutes now. Pull away. One of the things that I want to say about motor policies that you may not be, medical expenses is covered under motor policy. People only think the cars are covered. Medical expenses covered. And also bodily injury to any person and damage to property is covered. So you may run into an individual as opposed to another car. You may run into somebody's wall as opposed to another car. And if your policy is a third-party policy, what is expected is that your vehicle is not covered. Only damages you cause to third parties is covered. For you to have your own vehicle covered, you have to have a comprehensive policy. Another thing about the motor policy is your policy allows you to drive another private vehicle and have coverage under your policy. Yeah.
Or any other policy? No, I mean any other
Vehicle
vehicle?
that is not under a hire purchase arrangement. So it couldn't be a self-drive vehicle. So if I have insurance and I'm driving somebody else's car for third-party liabilities, my policy covers me driving that person's car. So I don't have to claim under their policy if something happens. I can claim under my own policy, even though it was not my vehicle that was covered. Yeah.
So does that affect, like, for instance, when you go away and they try to sell you insurance when you get those rental cars? They say, do you want to take it on insurance? And you say no, because you already have insurance on your car. Would that cover that as well?
Well, you shouldn't say that because your motor insurance policy have a jurisdiction clause,
Oh, it does.
which only covers for the Bahamas, and it actually has a exclusion for a car used for hire or purchase, so rental. But what you could say is, I only want liability coverage because they're supposed to have insurance on their vehicle already under their blanket rental vehicle. So they ask you if you want damage coverage or liability coverage.
That's what you call LDW?
Yeah,
That's what you call it.
yeah.
So that's all that you really need.
That's all that you really need. And then add insult to injury on that. If you, I think is it American Express or Visa? One of those cards, I'm not sure exactly which one it's not. I think about it because I don't like credit cards and all that stuff anymore. Once you book the rental car and airline ticket using your Visa, there's insurance for liability. And liability is any damage that you cause to somebody else will be covered. Whether it's in the car, whether you hit them in your bags or you push in a car, liability is covered. And your personal liability or anybody else is covered under the credit card organization. So you may not need that. So that's something I knew I wanted to just say for the motor policy, if you do have it. That's something that is different from what you expect to be covered. And any policy for aviation or marine that's covered anywhere else. Exceptions to this plan is when you have, you should maintain your vehicle in roadworthy condition. So if they find that the incident happened as a result of you driving with bald tires, they could deny a claim because you failed to maintain your vehicle in roadworthy condition. Okay, any mechanical situation. On the homeowner side, just to give you a clue of something else, we always sing the banks protect the house. They want you to take out insurance for the house. What happens to the contents of the house? All your furniture, so all your so don't say, oh, I got insurance with the bank, because the bank is only protecting the house. You're supposed to take out your contents insurance policy, or take out a policy that covers the contents. And so they don't normally insure the contents of the house. And another thing with Monies at home is covered. What happens in the case when your tree gets blown down on a neighbor house? That's your liability. That comes under the homeowner's policy. You can actually claim for things like that. And the only time that if you have an employer who sends you out in their car and you're driving during the course of your employment and you injure yourself or injure another person, your motor policy don't cover that because your employer's policy should have this extended in there. So those are the curious things that I found in both sides of policy. If somebody get hurt on your property, they come in to visit you and they slip on the pavement in your yard, that's covered under your homeowner's policy. Liability to the general public is covered. So people don't only think it's just the house that's being covered. It's the liabilities associated with the house as well as any outbuildings. They got people have little sheds and different things outside. Those are covered as well. So you have to make sure that when you're quoting the premiums, you're quoting the sums insured, you include your retainer walls and you include the price for those little handyman huts, sheds, with all the stuff in it as well. So that's just the things that people normally don't think about that I wanted to just share with you guys under this. And so that's basically something. If you leave your house unoccupied for more than 40 days, you could be in a challenge if theft happens. Because one of the conditions of your house insurance policy is it's not unoccupied for more than 40 days by you or some family member. Because you're making it susceptible to thieves. So I thought I'd just bring those interesting facts to the table for your consideration. Any questions?
Yeah, I have a question concerning the principles.
Mm-hmm.
Can you explain contribution again, please? Because
I can explain
I have two
any
different
contribution.
concepts.
Okay, you might be right. You might be right. But contribution happens whenever there is two insurers covering the same subject matter of insurance. Instead of getting 100% and 100%, you get them contributing to give you 100%. Yeah.
I was wondering if that was also including where the insurance company pay 80% and you pay 20%.
That's contribution.
That's contribution as well.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Because two insurers are contributing to satisfy the claim.
No, I mean, well, the insurance company pays 80% and the insured is responsible for the
No, that's co-insurance.
different.
That's different.
Okay.
You are co-insuring yourself. Contribution is when you have two insurers.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay? I think we're right on schedule and we're looking good.
So presentation next week.
Yes, ma'am. And make sure it's in a format where you can actually turn it in.